The Pomham Rocks Lighthouse story is about an island, a lighthouse, the lightkeepers, the Coast Guard, and the groups and organizations which transformed it into a well-preserved historical landmark that continues to serve as a navigational aid. The lighthouse sits on a stark islet of approximately 1/2 acre, which rises out of the Providence River about 800 feet west of the shoreline in the Riverside section of East Providence. The lighthouse can be easily viewed by boat or from the East Bay bike path, which borders the Providence River. This path is open to walkers as well as bikers. This westward-looking view of the lighthouse can be seen after a short walk from a parking lot. Pomham Rock's name, sometimes spelled Pomham in early records, derives from the Narragansett Indian chief whose territory included much of present-day Warwick. Despite his friendship with the English, Chief Pomham allied himself with King Philip once the King Philip's War began. During the 19th century, as shipping traffic heading toward Providence increased, Pomham Rocks was an obvious place to establish a navigational aid in the Providence River. A pyramidal daymark had been erected around 1828, but something more was needed to help ensure the safety of the vessels which passed it by. Congress granted an appropriation of $20,000 on July 15, 1870, for 3 lights on the Providence River, at Pomham Rocks, Sassafras Point, and Fuller Rock. It was determined that the new lighthouse's style would closely resemble several others built in New England, such as the Rose Island Lighthouse, built in early 1870 near Newport. Constructed in a French mansard style, the homey-looking lighthouse had 7 rooms, 2 halls, and a 42-foot-tall tower, from whose windows its 70-candle power light burned nightly. The lighthouse was lighted on December 1st, 1871, and equipped with a 6th-order Fresnel lens. It showed a fixed white light 67 feet above sea level. The lantern was changed to a fixed red light in 1872 and was powered by whale oil. The lens was upgraded to a 4th-order Fresnel in 1939. It stood 2 feet tall and weighed around 300 pounds. A fog siren was installed in 1900. One newspaper called it the greatest nuisance in the state. As complaints from local residents mounted, the continuous horn was changed to a 3-second blast at 12-second intervals. 3 years later, a fog bell replaced the siren. The large bell was struck by machinery which had to be wound by hand. Between 1871 and 1937, there were only 4 light keepers of the lighthouse: the Salisburys, Nathaniel Dodge, Thomas Fishburne, and the Aronsons. Although there was some breathing space on the small island and it was a short distance from East Providence, it took dedication and perseverance to live there full time, especially during the winter months. And there was no electricity, running water, or a bathtub right through 1951. Pomham's next lightkeeper, William Howard, arrived in 1937, just a year before the hurricane of 1938. As seen in these pictures, the tree next to the main building is leaning against the house. A fence has fallen down and the dock is gone. There used to be 5 or 6 smaller buildings on the island, and no one quite knows what happened to the 3 or 4 which disappeared. Although the lighthouse building survived, the boathouse and wharf did not fare as well. The boathouse is believed to have been blown off its foundation. In 1939, the Coast Guard took jurisdiction of the lighthouse from the lighthouse service. The Coast Guard repaired the damage from the hurricane of 1938. These pictures also show changes to the siding. They also repainted the window frames and chimney and sealed off one window on the northern side, changing the overall look of the building. In 1956, the last lighthouse keeper, Howard Beebe, and his family left the island and were replaced by sailors from the Coast Guard. In 1974, the Coast Guard replaced the lantern light with an automatic light on a skeletal tower. The focal height stood 54 feet above sea level and was visible from 6 nautical miles away. The last crew from the Coast Guard was soon reassigned. The 4th order Fresnel lens was also removed and eventually went on display at the Custom House Maritime Museum in Newburyport, Massachusetts. In July of 1979, the light station was designated a National Historic Landmark and cannot be altered without government approval. By May of 1978, the General Services Administration declared the lighthouse surplus federal property. In 1980, the GSA completed its plans for a sale and began accepting sealed bids in August. Mobil Oil wound up buying the island to help preserve the continuity of the waterfront, planning to keep the island in its natural state, just as it had kept nearby Ruth Island since 1918. At a meeting in late 2004 held in East Providence, a new chapter of the American Lighthouse Foundation, the Friends of Pomham Rock's Lighthouse, was formed for the purpose of restoring the lighthouse. In June of 2005, ExxonMobil Corporation, which now own the island, and the Lighthouse Foundation signed papers leasing the lighthouse to ALF at no cost for the next 25 years. In 2006, a $350,000 restoration to the exterior returned the lighthouse to its 1871 look. Red slate shingles, exposed granite foundation, plus cream-colored 7.5-inch clapboards and decorative window hoods. The house is now as it was originally, minus the shutters. In July of that year, an electric beacon inside the lantern room, powered by solar energy, replaced the light on the skeletal tower as the new navigational aid. The lantern relighting was marked with a well-attended ceremony at Save the Bay headquarters in Providence. In this picture, Rhode Island Governor Don Carcieri is shaking hands with ExxonMobil Vice President Dennis Houston. In April 2010, ExxonMobil transferred the Lighthouse's deed to the American Lighthouse Foundation. A big party was held at the Squantum Club in East Providence to commemorate the occasion, as seen in this photo. Since then, the Friends of the Lighthouse have purchased a new dock and ramp in 2012. The East Providence Fire Department has also donated 2 6-person fireboats which have been repaired and will be used to bring members and guests to the island. During the past several years, as part of their stewardship of the lighthouse, the Friends of Pomham Rock's Lighthouse have participated in several community-oriented events, including cleanups at the shoreline across from the island, marching in the annual Riverside Memorial Day Parade, the appearance of Pomham Rock Santa in late November, and finally, cleanup and maintenance on the island itself. The Friends' next challenge will be the renovation of the lighthouse's interior. This picture shows the staircase leading up to the second floor. A feasibility study has been conducted, and the chapter's officers are working hard to find grant money to fund the work. Perhaps you can help us with the renovation by joining the Friends of Pomham Rock's Lighthouse. In any case, the lighthouse is now as it was originally, absent the shutters. There's something alluring about a lighthouse on its own island, a building which signals and communicates to those who pass it by. With the recent improvements, the lighthouse is ready to rise and shine. Thank you for watching our video.